Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. My name is Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, that substantial list includes Bravely Default and Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Plus, Dragalia Lost is doing a Persona 5 thing, and DJ is still plugging away at Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I am plugging
away.
Plugging away. It's good, though. It's good. Still good. Better than last week.
Oh, excellent. Good.
I think.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I played some more. I'm back to, I'm putting, I still want to call it Gods and Monsters. I can't get used to saying Phoenix Rising. Immortals Phoenix Right. I put that in.
Yep. Immortals Phoenix Writing.
Immortals Phoenix Right. That'd be amazing. But I put that on pause and back to Yakuza 7.
I thought you finished Immortals.
I finished a lot of Immortals. I finished like the story, but I counted it up and there's like 40 puzzles left for me to do.
Oh, you still gotta do all the shrines and all that. Okay.
Right. So I can still sort of run around and do that stuff. And that's just fun. And it's, probably just weekend filler. Yeah. And of course they just released DLC for that with, 20 more puzzles. So yeah, Immortals is the gift that keeps on giving. So, that is there. But back to Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yes.
Moving forward with it, pretty good. I think I put a few hours into it on Friday, more on Saturday. Got up early Saturday morning with the dog and fired up the PS4 and played some more. So yeah, having a good time with it. Happy to be back.
Nice.
Yeah.
You weren't totally disoriented, like, who are all these people? What were we doing?
No, not at all. Paul actually said that in our Discord. He's like, it's been so long, Randy. How are you going to remember, how to play it? And I'm like, it's a RPG. They all play the same. I take my turn. You take your turn. I take my turn again.
Seems like a, slight simplification, but
it's pretty reductive.
Sure.
But, no, it took me a second to sort of catch up on who is everybody, what is my motivation here. But that game also does a cool little thing when you come back to it. As it's loading up, it gives you kind of a story summary on the screen.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah. Sort of previously on. So that was helpful in getting kind of back into the swing of things. I maintain this game has some pretty serious pacing problems.
We discussed this before. I feel like it depends on how much you're into, like, the cutscenes. Because to me, it's just like, it turns into something else at that point. Like, it's no longer a video game. I'm just watching some scene unfold. Yes. And I mean, in the early hours, particularly the first couple hours, I had a pretty serious issue with the number of cutscenes. But my issue now is I just finished a dungeon, like an underground section. There was a big boss battle and you had to sort of escape from a thing, and it dumped you into the sewers and you had to sort of navigate your way through the sewers back to your shitty little corner of Japan. and no offense to anyone, but they do live in a homeless camp.
They do. Yeah. It's not nice.
It's not a great area.
There's a lot of trash in the river. Yeah, so like I did a lot of that, and there were minimal save points, pretty high pressure, lots of battles and fights with, people who live in the sewers for some reason. And then there's a staircase that I think is going to take me back to the surface, and nope, it takes me to more sewer.
To more dungeon, yeah. I know which one you're talking about. That one I actually think was too long.
Yeah.
But
because it gets that fake out, not to cut you off, DJ. I know you want to defend Yakuza, but it does that fake out like 4 times. You like, oh, here's the staircase to the end. Finally, this must be the one that takes me back to the surface. And nope, more dungeon. And then the further you go, the fewer saves points there are, and the baddies get even more bad. And it's just an exercise in frustration every time you climb that staircase expecting daylight, and it's just more sewer.
Yeah. So I wasn't trying to defend it because I think it was actually too long. I was about to reassure you in that is really the only time where I ran into that issue. Like there are more sort of those dungeon style encounters later on, but they feel much more brisk than that sewer one. Which, I was going through the same thing. I was just like, how much more of the sewer do we have to trudge through? And right. There have been multiple save points at this point. That is, there's a lot. It feels like this is many dungeons connected to each other.
I'm bleeding out. My buddy's got 1 health left. I've eaten basically everything in our backpack to keep us alive. It's just not in good shape as you crawl your way to the surface. But that's the point. Maybe it is an RPG after all in a lot of ways. So you should be not holding on to those health potions. Use those. Yeah. Don't be the guy who finishes the game with 100 health potions.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to the point where you can change your job yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Something I notice about this, about Yakuza 7, is that so whenever you level up, or whenever your job levels up, which are 2 separate progression meters, you get all of your health and your magic points back, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I was just, as soon as I figured that out, I was like, oh man, I really don't need to be conserving my magic points at all. So I would go into most battles, just throw out the most powerful spell or ability that I had, the one that hits everybody for the most amount of damage. And a few battles later, I just level up and get all of my points back. So that helps speed things along quite a bit.
Definitely. And in a lot of RPGs, I think Dragon Quest is really good for these. There, I found an amulet that I think one of my characters now wears, and if she punches somebody, she gets a huge boost in MP and magic points.
Oh yeah, that's also really good.
Yeah, it just so happens that she's also my healer. So all I do is punch a guy, get a huge boost of magic points, heal everybody, punch a guy, lather, rinse, repeat. So yeah, a little further into the game now, and I'm not sort of limping around on 1 health anymore, and have gotten a pretty good system down of her keeping everybody alive when I need to. But it got a little dicey in that dungeon, and the game tells you later, it's like, if you want to go back to the dungeon, you can do that again with new enemies, tougher enemies now. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. I'm never doing that.
So I never went back in there.
Yeah,
I heard it's there's some worthwhile stuff to check out, but I was just like, no, I think I'll just continue on my way, see what else is out here.
So despite that annoyance, I am back to having a really good time with Yakuza 7. And
good.
I enjoy these characters immensely. I think the good work, the best work that this game does is in those 4 leads. I think it's really brilliant.
I think, so this is kind of a new thing to the series, in that you would have recurring secondary characters in the previous Yakuza games that you would run into every other mission or something, when you weren't doing the equivalent of a dungeon in those games.
Yeah.
But there was never really anybody who just followed the protagonist around as a party.
Oh.
And it's nice to have sort of that dynamic. Not just because it's, it makes more sense for a turn-based RPG, but there are people he can talk with, and interesting little side conversations that happen, which are most of the time are hilarious. So I'm very glad that they managed to include that in here.
I like those. Yeah, those little sort of incidental conversations that pop up as you're running around the city, where the people in your party will have a little cross chat with each other, and at the end of the conversation you get 5 bond points with each other, and your link to your party goes up a little bit. But yes, there is some good writing and some good character building that happens in those dialogues as well.
I was actually so impressed by a lot of those, because they're not just your typical, I don't know, video game humor, hey, we should throw a joke in here, and it's just the dumbest thing you ever heard. But in Yakuza, so many of them are just about the weird reactions they have to somebody saying something strange. It feels like there's just a lot more subtlety to them than I would expect in video game writing. I was just so impressed. Anyway, cool. Very good. Very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was not even one of the games I planned on talking about.
That wasn't even on the list.
Yeah. But yeah, so we should get to the list because it is substantial. Where do you want to start, DJ, since you've got a lot here?
Well, I was speaking of stuff that's not on the list, I was going to ask you if you're excited for this Friday.
Valentine? Nope. Super Bowl? No. What is Friday, DJ?
It's they're announcing the next Final Fantasy XIV expansion.
Oh, I'm excited for you now.
Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
That's the response you expected, right?
That's about right. This is the exact amount of excitement and sarcasm.
Good.
I wasn't going to talk about it a whole lot, but I was just it's a kind of a big deal. Like I said, I've mentioned previously, as we've talked about all the gaming events that had to get canceled or postponed last year, that it was very sad to me. They canceled all of the global fan fests that they usually hold leading up to the expansion announcement.
Oh.
Usually super fun. Everybody gets together in a big convention center. A bunch of the team members will get up on stage and talk about the game and the announcements, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But you can't really do that anymore. So it was kind of up in the air for a while, like what's going to happen to these fan festivals? And they've replaced them with this thing that they're calling, I love this because they're just so coy about all the announcements. They're calling it the Final Fantasy XIV Announcement Showcase this Friday. It doesn't even, they haven't even come out and said expansion, but they're just like, oh, expect big news. Please expect there to be some large scale announcements at the Announcement Showcase. So we're like, oh, okay, guys. I wonder what that could be.
It would be a shame if we all showed up for the Announcement Showcase and there was nothing announced.
They didn't announce anything. Weird. Yeah. It's the most disappointing Announcement Showcase I've been
to. Cool.
But it's also just been a long year.
You will update us next week, I assume, on all of the big news.
There's a good chance I might do that.
Yeah. Any forecasts? Any hubbub? Anything you wanna take a shot at predicting?
I don't know. I find this interesting actually because if you were to poll the community, kind of the cornerstone of every new expansion is they add a couple of new jobs for people to play as.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a big guessing game, like, oh man, what sort of classic Final Fantasy jobs could make it in this time? And I think, so this time, it seems pretty certain that they're going to add a new healing job, and then the other one's up in the air. Nobody knows what it could be. But somehow the community, the popular job for this healing role is a chemist, which is cool. It's been in a few Final Fantasy games. But there's really been very little evidence to suggest, coming from the development team and coming from in the game, that they would just add this chemist job. There have been a few, kind of minor hints, mentions of chemists in the game, but I don't know if that's enough for people to conclude, oh yeah, chemist is a sure thing. But nevertheless, everybody is just like, oh man, what kind of abilities is the chemist going to have? And I'm just like, let's calm down a minute. Remember how disappointed everybody was the last time when they were massively wrong about something they announced?
Yeah, really just kind of setting yourselves up for disappointment.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. I think chemist would be cool. I have some ideas what they could do with that. But we really have we have much less information than I think people think we have about what they're going to announce. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Cool. Yeah, well, that's exciting. I respect that. Not my thing, but far be it for me to rain on your parade, DJ.
Right. If they announced an Uncharted announcement showcase, and they'll just I don't know what kind of questions would come up around that. Where is he going to this time? What kind of historical figure is he going to dig up out of the ground and have to battle or something
Nate
like that?
Is back. There was a Tomb Raider. This is the 25th anniversary of Tomb Raider, and I follow Tomb Raider on all of my social medias, and they posted a video on Instagram last week with things they were planning on doing for Laura's 25th, and I was like, oh, please be a new game. That would be very exciting.
I can't believe she's only 25. She looks great.
Said exactly. Doesn't look a day over 19. But saying that she doesn't, they don't have any sort of, game announcements right now, but, they have a lot of retrospectives and things like that planned. And I'm like, you cannot go an entire year without, announcing some kind of thing, some kind of content I can consume that is not just, a sizzle reel of Laura's greatest hits from the last 25 years.
I mean, tell that to the Metroid fans.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah. I mean, there's a new Prime game coming eventually. Possibly.
Yeah, eventually. Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Likely not 2021, but So, yeah. We all have our thing. Everybody's a nerd for something.
Right.
Like Dragalia Lost X Persona 5.
Like Dragalia Lost X Persona 5, yeah. So there's this Persona event going on in Dragalia Lost, which seems very random, but then I remember that what is it, Persona 5 Scramble Strikers is coming out soon.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I guess it makes sense to do a tie-in. Dragalia Lost being Nintendo / Cygames mobile game, which I've actually still been playing pretty regularly. Came out a couple years ago. And occasionally they'll do these little kind of crossover events.
Are you talking about a Fire Emblem one?
Yeah, they did a Fire Emblem one. They did a couple Fire Emblem ones, actually.
Nintendo keeps going to that Fire Emblem well, yeah.
Yeah. They did, was it Monster Hunter? They had a Mega Man event, which was very weird. Like, I don't even think a Mega Man game came out recently, but they just decided to toss Mega Man in there. I mean, I guess it's good that he gets to be in some game. But anyway, they're doing a Persona one, and this one, I mean, I'm not a huge Persona fan, especially not Persona 5, but people seem very excited about this one. And it feels like a lot of people are kind of jumping into the game just to figure out what's all about so they can spend some more time with the Persona crew, which I think is fun. It's always good to get more people playing the game.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a smart way of kind of rebooting interest in this thing.
Yeah. I am definitely not... I'm not like super hardcore into this where I'm just like on the Dragalia forums all day discussing the meta characters that everybody should be using. I did catch some sentiment though that like some people were getting a little burned out on how the game's going, so they see this Persona thing as like kind of a revitalization of the game, which is like, oh, like I was still having fun with it. I don't know what everybody else was getting stuck on. But anyway, it's just kind of a fun excuse to send the Dragalia Lost characters on just a largely nonsensical adventure with the Persona crew, or at least some of them. Because each one of these crossover events basically boils down to, oh man, like these characters just from some other world have somehow appeared in Dragalia Lost world, and inevitably they have dragged along some like villain that they need to team up and confront. But
that sounds familiar. Yes.
Yeah. At this point, though, it's just like, oh man, we're getting. I think they might have actually mentioned this, like, oh, we have no problem, or we have lots of experience with adventurers from other worlds, and eventually sending them back to their own world, because that's another concern. It's just like, oh man, are we just stuck here? Can we make it back home eventually? But the Dragalia Lost crew is just. They're all professionals at this point of getting people back home into their respective franchises.
Persona guys, we got you. Don't worry. You're in good hands. Yeah.
So that's kind of hysterical. But the event is kind of it's pretty typical in terms of what these crossover things usually entail. There's like a little boss fight, and then there is a kind of a squad raid where you take your team of 4 characters and you team up with 3 other players and their teams, and then you fight this big boss. What surprised me about this one is there's so much story to it, and usually they'll have like all the little limited time events will have a couple chapters worth of like a little cutscene. It's usually like, I mean, it's all text heavy cutscene stuff. Mm-hmm. But the Persona one, it just seems like it went on forever.
Wow.
I don't know if that is like something the Persona team requested with this or what, because I mean, it takes some time just to establish kind of like what the Phantom Thieves are about, and kind of explain the premise of Persona 5 to people who may not have played it. And I've heard you talk about it on here previously, so I had some idea of what was going on.
Right.
But they do take a noticeable amount of time at the start just to explain, like, oh, so, sometimes somebody will, I mean, I'm going to get all the terminology wrong, but they'll just like get some sort of wicked idea in their head and they become, or it spawns this shadow version of themselves and we have to go into their mind prison to destroy it or something like that. The mind palace, not the prison.
Right, yep. Yeah, you're not too far off. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was just like, yes, this all sounds vaguely familiar, but it's kind of hilarious that they just drop all this right at the start to get people caught up.
Yeah, and not sort of unreasonable to dump this into the game, considering Persona 5 has not appeared on the Switch.
Yes, that's another thing. It's another. Yeah. It's like Mega Man. Like, why is who is this guy? Who are the Phantom Thieves? What game have they been in?
It's that guy from Smash Brothers. He's also in this other game.
Guy.
Yeah. So yeah, it is odd that Persona, that Joker appears in Smash and Strikers is coming to the Switch, but yeah, Persona 5, the mainline game, or the S version or whatever it is that came out just last year, has still not made its way to the Switch. So yeah, all of the weird sort of ancillary stuff, but no appearance of the mainline game.
It's even weirder because like the Strikers game is a sequel to Persona 5, like story-wise. So I feel like
that's what I hear.
You're kind of expected to have played, or at least gotten the story completed from this game that is not on the same platform.
Right. Yeah. And that's my hesitation for I want to play Strikers. It looks like a good time, but I also want to finish Persona 5 first, so I know how it ends before this thing starts. So it's a weird proposition, and it's a weird sort of placement for this.
Yeah. It's a little strange. I wonder if they're just counting on everybody, like, you guys all played Persona.
We know you have a PS4 too, yeah.
Right. But anyway, it's very cool. It's surprisingly story-heavy, but at the same time, like, in addition to just having to set up all the Persona characters, they actually turn it into kind of an excuse. They take a character from the Dragalia Lost storyline who is kind of secondary, and make him the focus. He's like the big villain in this. They're breaking into his mind palace or whatever it is. But I was like, well, this is actually kind of interesting because previously he just seemed like kind of two-dimensional. And by this, they're like fleshing out his backstory and motivations a little bit, which is cool. It's kind of weird that it's happening in this limited time kind of crossover event, but still kind of cool nonetheless.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I've seen some of the animation. I've seen little GIFs of Joker doing stuff from Dragalia Lost, and they turned him into a cute little kind of chibi character that sort of fits right in with the rest of Dragalia's artwork. So
everybody's got huge heads now. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm really into it. I really like the so they added one of the characters you can recruit is, I guess it's a new character from Persona Strikers, Sophie, who wears like this weird looking white hoodie with big googly eyes on it.
Oh.
So that's cool, but I just like the treatment of all these characters, especially because they have the cat who I thought was Morgana, but in this one she's called Mona. Is that does he have two names in Persona 5? Did I miss something?
Yes. Yep. That's from Persona 5.
Okay. But anyway, she's in it. She just like did not really get stylized at all. She just looks like the enormous headed cat that I recognize from Persona 5. So it's nice to have some familiar faces.
Excellent. Well, I mean, the Morgana Mona has two sort of versions in Persona as well. There's the just sort of like a house cat kind of body in kind of the real world, and then you go into the kind of the I forget what they call it, the underground or whatever in Persona, the Mind Palace world, and as you said, is sort of the big-headed kind of anime cat with giant eyes.
Yeah, it looks like a little like sports mascot or something.
Yes, yeah, that's a good call, actually. Yeah.
So that's fun.
Cool.
It's kind of like at this point, as we're recording, only the first half of the event is out. So at the point where I am, it kind of left on a to be continued note, and the story will continue, I guess, a week from now. Cool. So
I've not played Dragalia Lost, but this appeals to me. Can I jump into this easily and still have fun with it and understand what's going on and appreciate the Persona event? Yeah.
I think the the requirement to do the event is all you have to complete is the first chapter of the Dragalia Lost story, which you can just flies by.
Cool.
I don't remember when the character in question, who kind of the villain for the Persona event, I forget when he actually shows up, but I do think you'll run into him at that point. I mean, you must have if they're requiring people, or if they're letting people play the event after finishing the first chapter. So I don't think you'll be confused or anything beyond just any normal confusion from starting out Dragalia Lost.
Sure.
Cool. But it's pretty good. I feel like it's a good time to get in if you're interested, because they are just giving away every day of this event. They're just dropping free summons on people, which you use to recruit more powerful characters and add dragons to your team and all that. Plus, I feel like they've just been like cranking up the amount of freebies that new players get over the last few months. So if you're curious, I don't know if it's critical that you play this if you're a Persona 5 fan, but it's definitely easy to get into and check out if you're curious.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah, I'm intrigued. This has come up a couple of times in our Discord. I think you had recommended it at one point, and Essian from the Discord too had recommended checking it out. And yeah, I don't have room in my life for a ton of other games, but I always enjoy Persona stuff, and it'd be cool to see those characters in action again.
Yeah. The only kind of catch is that because it's a gacha game, you don't necessarily start with all of the Persona characters to play with. Like, you do a little tutorial mission as Joker, and then you're given Sophie from Strikers to add to your team. But then in order to play as Joker and Mona and eventually Panther, I think will be added, you have to summon them through the gacha system. And like I said, they're being very generous. They're giving everybody 10 free summons every day that this event is going on. But, at that point, it's all up to your luck with the slot machine. So, people shouldn't go into this expecting like, oh man, this is going to be great. I'm going to have all my favorite Persona characters on the team, and that'll be it. That may not be your experience right from the get-go.
Interesting. Okay. Good to know. I appreciate you modulating my expectations.
Yeah.
The internet has confirmed this goes until February 11th, so still a little more time to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, by the time this show comes out, I think we'll still be on the first half of the event. So yeah, still plenty of time to get in and check it out if you want.
Excellent.
So yeah, pretty good. I've been, it's weird how kind of my approach to Dragalia Lost has changed since the game initially came out, because it's essentially it's an action RPG, and you guide the characters around and do little attacks, and you do all these special moves. But then it also has this auto battle feature, which at the beginning I thought was weird, because I was like, okay, why would I just want to turn it over to the computer and just not play this game anymore, essentially? Just have all the characters run some AI script.
Yeah, I never do that in RPGs. Yakuza 7 has that, and I don't do it. I'm like, no, I want to control all this. I'm here to play a game. Let me play the game.
Yeah. But so here's the weird thing, though, is after 2 years of playing this, I realized, like, if you get your team strong enough, you can just have them auto battle through some actually pretty difficult content. And at some point, it just kind of clicked in my head, like, I can just turn this into more of like a team management game than like an action game.
Oh.
So basically how I play it now is I kind of load it up, and I've got my teams and their loadouts all set up. And I'll go, okay, what kind of stuff, what kind of quests do I do? Or do I need to, get the next level of upgrades for my squad? And I figure that out, and I'll go figure out like a team composition that is good for that type of quest, and then I'll just send them out and put it on auto battle. And at that point, it almost turns into like an idle game, or like a clicker even.
Right.
Where I'll just like watch them and like, all right, they're doing all right. They weren't quite powerful enough to finish this quest, so I'll go back and like tweak all their equipment and everything. And you can still actually like step in the middle of the battle, like, oh man, I gotta take control of this. You guys are really You're not doing it.
You can get your hands off the wheel, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of the time I find it is very entertaining just to like get my loadouts all set up and just turn them loose and see how they do this time. They're like, oh, they weren't strong enough this week. Maybe I'll just come back and try it again next week after we've ground out a little more equipment. So that is very different than like the first couple months playing this game where I was just struggling through like, oh man, I gotta like learn all these abilities and I gotta like dodge through all the enemy attacks and everything. And now I'm just kind of like their manager being like all right, you guys, get back out there, get some loot. Tell me how it goes.
Excellent. Well, that's kind of an interesting approach. That sounds appealing as well.
It's weird, and I didn't think, like you said, I was like, I'm here to play a game. Why would I ever pick this? It's strange that I have kind of like gotten into this type of auto battle groove, but in a weird way, I'm still enjoying it. In fact, maybe more than I was like just struggling through all these weird fights. I really kind of like taking a step back and looking at it from a higher level.
Cool.
Anyway, yeah, so I'm very happy to have all the Persona guys on my team now, so I can start coaching them as well.
Were you able to roll them or summon them or whatever the right word is?
I did. I got extraordinarily lucky, I think, and I got Joker and Mona right off the bat.
Nice.
So yeah, that's cool. That's exciting. It's probably not going to be everybody's experience. I'm kind of wary about recommending people play gacha games, actually, because like for some people it can be a serious problem. Like it can be very addictive to keep running the slot machine. So I don't want to give people the impression that it's like super easy to get like these very rare characters. But you know, if you think you can be responsible with it and do a reasonable amount of summons, given like the free resources and everything, then I think it's a lot of fun. I think you should check it out.
Cool. Yeah, I think maybe the thing that's maybe it has an advantage to me is that my interest in it is pretty fleeting beyond experiencing the Persona 5 stuff. So I don't, and I'm sure Nintendo hopes that people sort of come for the Persona 5 and stay for the Dragalia, but I suspect that hopefully will not be the case for me.
Yeah, I think it's totally reasonable that you would just get in and check out the Persona stuff and then be like, well, I've experienced it. That was fun. Don't need to be doing this all the time.
I popped open the Play Shop on my phone as you were talking and bookmarked Dragalia so I could text my messages and have conversations with my friends and really not listen to what you were saying at all. But no, added Dragalia Lost
to a video chat. Some of my buddies.
Right. Time for FaceTime with somebody interesting.
Yeah.
But sorry, you know I love you. But added Dragalia Lost to my wish list and noticed that there's a new mobile Dragon Quest game called Tact. Have you heard of this?
I can't. I've lost track of how many Dragon Quest games are at this point.
Okay. Because, there was the sci-fi one. There was the Dragon Quest of the Stars that came out last year that I kind of bounced off of.
Was it a sci-fi one?
They were in space, were they not?
I don't think so. Were they? I forget. Well, like I said, I've lost track. There was one that was sort of a gacha game.
Yeah.
It was actually interesting.
It says this one just came out, now available. Dragon Quest Tact.
Oh,
it's got a little blue slime.
Maybe you should download it. You can tell me about it.
Report back, yeah. Anyway, let's not go down a Dragon Quest hole, but exciting. I will have to check out this Persona thing.
Nice. What else have you been playing? We haven't talked about anything you've been playing. I don't know. What else have you been playing besides Yakuza?
Yakuza. Pikmin 3 Deluxe. I grabbed this before Christmas and have just finally gotten to it in the last couple of weeks. This is my real first Pikmin game, I think. I played the side-scroller that no one seems to like.
Okay. Wait. Sorry to interrupt. It's called Dragon Quest Tact because it's a tactical RPG.
Yes.
I get it. I was just like, what is that word? They're just being very polite to each other. Okay, that's being God. Square Enix, and they're just bizarre naming schemes. Anyway, sorry. That's Pikmin.
That's
Pikmin,
right.
Please.
Pikmin. So yeah, I played Hey Pikmin, which was a 3DS sort of platformer that I think had some kind of core similarities to the Pikmin thing. Essentially, you have a bunch of little, plant-based Pikmin critters that follow you around and have different abilities, and you use them to do things. And Pikmin 3 Deluxe is a Wii U game that, like many other Wii U games, has finally made its way to the Switch with some additional content and a bit of a visual upgrade. And so I figured I would give it a whirl because it seems to get really good reviews, and it seems to be sort of generally regarded as one of the highlights of the Pikmin series, and one of the really good games from the Wii U that it was a shame kind of, never got experienced by a lot of people. So, I've been playing it, and it's interesting. I can't honestly say that I sort of knew what I was getting myself into, other than that sort of very slight, there's little stone Pikmin, and you can use them to break glass, and there's little yellow Pikmin, and they can conduct electricity, so you can use them to bridge the gaps in cables to turn the lights on and stuff like that. But so I kind of got that they were these little critters that you could use as like a utility, essentially, and you had to make sure you had the right color kind of on hand. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of squad management, and there's a ticking clock element where every day you land on the surface of this planet, you have a limited amount of sunlight to explore, and as the sun starts to go down, an alarm starts going off, and you need to make sure that all your Pikmin are back on the ship and that you're blasting off for outer space as the sun goes down, or the monsters will come out and eat you. And all of the Pikmin.
What are those big red bugs called?
Don't remember.
The basically just a big mouth with legs.
Yes, that's sort of what it looks like, the maw. But yeah, so there's that. There is also sort of the primary focus of the thing is that you are from a planet that has exhausted all of its food sources. Everyone on your planet is starving. And you've been sent out into the world, into the universe, to find a fertile planet where you can get food, essentially, and bring it back to your people. And there's a pressure on you being able to find food as well, so you have to find fruits and vegetables as you're exploring to be able to get them back to your ship and juice them for you to be able to eat at the end of the day, plus also build up a stockpile to take back to your planet. There's just a lot of management things happening. You have a little device, which I presume on the Wii U was the handheld portion of the Wii U that has your map on it, but also has a bunch of different little apps that tell you what your objectives for the day are, and how many fruits and vegetables you've foraged and have stockpiled, and how many Pikmin you have at your disposal, and of what color and what their abilities are. There's like a Pikmin Pokédex. So there's a ton of sort of information available to you as you're manipulating this thing, and a lot of it kind of plays out as I don't know, like tower defense in a lot of ways, where you're there's, the ticking clock element, and there's an enemy, and you have to do a couple of objectives and knock down a wall and collect some fruit. And also there's a thing that's trying to eat all your Pikmin. Right. And when they get eaten, they make horrible, sad mewling and screaming noises. Yeah. And their little ghosts. Their little
ghost flies up to heaven.
Exactly. And your number goes down. So you had 100 Pikmin, and now you have 99 because one got eaten by that weird bug.
That didn't happen in the 3DS game?
I don't remember that.
Oh, man.
It's jarring the first time it happens. The first big monster that came stomping out had a tongue that would dart out, and it would pierce a couple of the little Pikmin and suck them back into his mouth, and their little ghosts would disappear up into the space. And I was like, nope, we're doing this over. I can't let that happen. So back to my save. Yep.
I think every Pikmin player goes through that, because it's hysterical because it's such a cute game on the surface. And then everything bad that happens is done in such a a Nintendo way, where it doesn't really dwell on how dark everything is, but they're just oh man, the thing just killed tons of these Pikmin that I've been cultivating, and they just turned into a cute little ghost. But you're oh man, they were all murdered by that insect or whatever it is. It's very traumatic.
Yeah, it is.
That's also just it's essentially StarCraft. It's like an RTS, which it's also not really evident if you were to just look at the box art and be oh, it's all these little fun guys on an expedition. But like you said, there's tons of like unit management and direction and like resource management as well. It's surprisingly complex.
Yes, yeah. And the further you get into it, it's done in sort of expedition days. You have a team of 3 kind of astronauts, explorers, and they can each have their own kind of team of Pikmin handy. And you can switch between all 3 of them, kind of completing different objectives at different places at the same time. But you're all under that time crunch of being back on the ship before the sun goes down.
Yeah, I understand.
So when that alarm starts to go off, you're like, oh shit, where is everybody? And you have to find a way to sort of reunite them. The first one that gets back to the ship can like raise an alarm that calls all the Pikmin back so that you can get them back on your ship and not lose them overnight. But you also have to get your fellow explorers back. If they're in a safe place, they can sort of stay on the surface of the planet and kind of sleep in a cave overnight. But you get a guilt trip in the morning when you come back that are like, I'm starving, it's so cold, I found a safe spot, but I heard critters in the night, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. It is my mission today to make sure that you get back on the ship.
Is there any like practical drawback to leaving them down there? Do they like perform worse the next day?
Not in any way that I found. No, it's just a little guilt trippy thing.
They just guilt trip you. Okay, well that's nice.
Yeah, they also don't get their daily ration, which is interesting. That when you get back on the ship, you know, there's a little sort of briefing on kind of what did we learn today and what do we do and what are our objectives for tomorrow. And then everybody gets their ration. So you turn all the fruit that you found that day into juice. You stockpile most of it, but everybody gets a little sip of juice to get them through the day. And if your buddies didn't make it back on the ship and are freezing to death in a cave somewhere on the surface, you get their juice.
Oh, okay. So maybe you want to leave them down there.
You get your juice. And they don't get any juice. So I guess it's a way of maybe making those rations last a little bit longer is to not get them back on the ship at night. But that's kind of the dark side of Pikmin.
Oh, you don't take their juice. It just goes
no, I'm being
unjuiced or undrank.
Yeah. But you do get a little thing in the morning where they're like, oh, Randy, I'm so hungry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Just get back to the ship sooner. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
Well, there was
day 6 or 7, I had to build a bridge. We got separated. One of my buddies was on the other side of this water. A river. That's the word I'm looking for. A river.
One of those water things.
This water thing. And I had to build a bridge using the parts and the Pikmin I had on my side of the river. And then from the half-completed bridge, I could chuck some Pikmin across to my buddy, who would then have, hopefully, enough time and resources and Pikmin at their disposal to build the other half of the bridge to reunite us and get them back on the ship at the end of the day. But I got distracted. I was lollygagging. I found a secondary objective that I didn't need to spend any time on and spent too much time on, and then just didn't finish the bridge in time and had to leave them behind, and felt real bad about it the next day.
Can you go back and finish the bridge the next day?
The next day you can, yes. Yeah.
Okay,
the cool thing about it is that ticking clock is a little bit annoying, but so far the game has been pretty judicious about letting you determine where on the surface of the planet you want to land the next day. And if you keep going back to kind of the same spot to keep mopping up objectives and collect all the things you can collect, the game does not seem to kind of hard set on pushing you forward from that point. You can, I guess, continue to dip into that stuff to make sure you're doing all the, exploring all the things that you're curious about.
So is there like an overall time limit? There's like a limited number of days you can go down, or is it just the daily time limit?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure. I think I'm 12 days into it, and it's not kind of put any pressure on me. Mm-hmm. There is sort of the added pressure of you being able to get back to your planet where everybody's starving. But it only sort of mentions that a couple of times. It doesn't sort of ever, it has thus far never told me like you only have 30 days or 12 and a half days or whatever to finish this objective. So I'm not sure if I will ever run out of time.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully, if that were the case, it would have communicated that from the outset.
Yeah, it seems like it would be important detail.
It would be a shame to get to day 20 and go, okay, well, if you're not done, it's not getting done.
By the way, tomorrow's the last day. We're all heading home. Pikmin 1, I think you only had 30 days total. Because either your oxygen or like your power was going to run out after 30 days. And I tried playing it, I was just like, I can't deal with this. Like, you also had the daily time limit, so that you could only accomplish so much. But just having that hanging over my head, I was like, this is too much for me. They got rid of it in Pikmin 2, which I played in its entirety because I was finally free of that time limit. So I was just like, okay, I can deal with this. Just like as many attempts as I want. And I had a really good time with it because I didn't have that time pressure. But it was still just like by the end of it, like, I don't even really like RTS games because they get so stressful. And especially in this with the enemies just slaughtering your Pikmin left and right.
Right.
I was like, well, this is a much more intense game than I thought I was signing on for. And I really like what's going on with it, but it's kind of a miracle that I'm playing it at all.
So it sounds like they've not changed that structure too dramatically. That 30 days is intimidating, but the sort of daily structure of the way that they handle the exploration and stuff like that is common to the Pikmin games.
Yeah, like you always had until sunset or whenever it is.
Okay.
And then you have to go back up to the ship because that's when all the monsters come out.
The internet is telling me now that as long as I continue to find enough rations, I can spend 99 days exploring.
99 days? Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's not the same as unlimited days.
It is not. No, but when I'm on my 12th day, it sort of feels a little unlimited. So
yeah. I don't think it took me 99 days to get through Pikmin 2. So you
I wonder if it will start cranking up the intensity as I get to the 80th day or something.
I don't even think I got close to 99, so I think you should be good.
But I like it. It's obviously a very different experience from the platformer that I played, but it is interesting in that it is so stressful, and there is sort of a dark layer of horrors behind kind of the shiny surface of Pikmin. Yeah. I don't know. I dig it, though. I do find that I can't consume a ton of it in a sitting. I get through 1 or 2 days, and I just feel kind of wiped out. And I'm like, all right, that's enough for this session. I'll come back to this in a day and a half. I need a little, maybe Animal Crossing to cleanse my palate.
I think I would do like 1 or 2 days worth. So like 2 missions, and just be like, all right, I am exhausted. We lost way too many guys in the last run. I just can't deal with it anymore. I have to come back to this tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, the days where and it gives you a little meter that it runs a little chart of like how many Pikmin you started the day with and how many you ended with, and you can sort of see the little drop in the line on the red guys because a bunch of them got eaten by the giant bug thing, and just
again, not like it's trying to just put that in your face. It's
not
just
at
like,
all. By
the way, here's how many died. You do with this information whatever you want.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm structurally, I don't have a lot of familiarity with games that play like this. I've not played a lot of real-time strategy games, so it's interesting to kind of wrap my brain around the mechanics in this thing and to kind of unpack it.
It's impressive. Like, this is just for Pikmin as a whole, but it's impressive that they managed to get as robust of a game as it is to work on a console with like a gamepad. You don't need like a keyboard and mouse to fully enjoy it. The only thing I can think of is it's too bad you don't get to use the that Wii U tablet thing with it, because I imagine that would have been a huge help.
Yes, yeah, that has occurred to me as well. Is that like the optimum version of this probably was on the Wii U, where you had a secondary device that you could sort of use constantly in your hand that had the radar and the map on it and etc., rather than having to pull open a pause screen to be able to consult the map and stuff.
Yeah.
That was always
that's on the Switch, so people can check it out.
Yeah, definitely. The always the advantage of the Wii U and the DS and the 3DS is having that second screen, particularly in RPGs and games like that, to be able to have, one is your play screen and the other is your information screen. But yeah, digging it so far. I will continue to chip away at this thing. The thing that I want to recommend to our listeners, if you have a Switch, there is a demo for this, a pretty robust demo, in fact, in the eShop that you can download and play for free. And it gets you through the first, I think, 3 or 4 days of the game. If you decide to pick up either a physical or downloadable copy of the game, your progress from the demo carries to the main game. Which is how I consume this. I played it first in demo and then carried my save over after buying the real game, or the full game, excuse me. But It's cool. It's an interesting way to kind of check it out and wrap your brain around some of the mechanics and see if it's for you, and you'll get a little taste of the hellacious life of a Pikmin.
That's cool. I should check it out. That's probably going to be like enough Pikmin 3 for me. But who knows? If I change my mind, I'll at least have my save from the demo.
Yeah. So, what else is on the list? Bravely Default.
Yeah, so, man, speaking of going back to games after a very long time, to RPGs especially, I don't even know why I'm playing this. Oh, actually, I do. So, there's a sequel coming out, which kind of just got Bravely Default back into my my headspace. Because I was really into it back when this came out. It came out in like 2014, I think. It's been a while.
Oh. Well, this is there's 3 of these, right? Because they have a weird naming structure. There's
Bravely Default, and then there's Bravely Second,
right?
Which is weird. And now there's Bravely Default 2, which is like, wait, wasn't the other one the second one? so what does that mean? I don't really know.
Yeah,
I only played the first one, so I don't fully grasp all the implications of the titles at this point.
So you're back to this though, and you picked up where you left off?
I played, well, sort of. I played a lot of this. My original save has like 70 hours on it, which is a lot.
Whoa.
And I stopped because I got to this one boss, and he was giving me a hard time, and I just kept putting it down, and eventually I just put it down forever. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought I should go back and check it out. I was so far into it. I imagine there's not much further left to go. So let's just pick it up. Like you said, every RPG is the same. I'll just intuit everything about how the game worked instantly. That was not the case at all. I think it's like, at a certain point, it's just too long since playing the original game. Because in this one, you've got like the whole Final Fantasy job system. So I loaded it up, and all my characters, I remember who the characters were, but they were all on these different jobs, and they each had a sub job. And I was like, what? Why were they using these jobs? Was there some reason? Was there like some combination that worked well together, or was I just like grinding out extra job points? What's going on in the story? I was looking up all these guides, because I was just like, please help me limp over the finish line in this game. And I found some that had people's sort of like recommended party setups. And they're like, okay, so get all these jobs and then go get these specific pieces of equipment because these really help. It was just like, all right, where are those shops that they sell these things in? Like, what are the different cities? How do I go onto the airship? And I was just like, this is a total disaster. I'm spending more time just like remembering how to actually play this game, let alone like I completely lost what's going on in the story. And I was like, man, but 70 hours, I already sunk a lot of time into this. How can I just restart from the beginning? But it eventually just got to the point where I was just like, I'm not getting anything out of trying to salvage this old save file. So I started a new one.
What?
From hour 0. Oh. And let me tell you, it has been terrific. I totally forgot how much I was into this game. It's so good. On the surface, it looks like just kind of a generic kind of Final Fantasy clone where you've got 4 people in your party and they fight monsters and they've all got their different jobs and abilities and everything.
If I remember correctly, there is some connection to Final Fantasy, right?
It's like it's kind of a fake Final Fantasy game. Like it borrows a lot of spells, and even the jobs and abilities are very similar to stuff that has been in Final Fantasy games.
Wasn't there like a creative director in common or something like that?
I forgot who directed it. The artist who designed all the characters worked on like Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 12, 14. So I mean, there's definitely a lot of overlap. It's just not Final Fantasy in name.
Gotcha.
Is the thing.
Okay.
But it's really good. It's really fun. It's been interesting playing this alongside Final Fantasy VII Remake, because if you mentioned, I mean, if you remember last week, I was complaining that I felt like the cutscenes and just the character, the way they act and deliver lines, is just like way overblown and not appropriate to like how you expect people to behave in a game that looks like that.
Right?
But in this, I mean, they're kind of doing the same inflections and kind of punched up dialogue, but because this game, it's not like fully realistic people in these 3D cutscenes. It's just like they look like little Dragalia Lost characters with their huge heads and tiny bodies, and they're not even really in like actual spaces most of the time. They're just kind of standing all in a row on the screen and talking to each other in text boxes, which occasionally have voice dialogue. But they're just doing these really melodramatic line readings, and it's terrific just because like it really works in this type of presentation. And I'm just like, oh man, what a difference. I have so much more into the story and the characters in this because I don't know, it's very lively and funny, and it doesn't feel out of place like all the cutscenes in Final Fantasy VII.
Cool. So does this make you want to explore Bravely Second or check out the new one?
I'd like to get to them at some point, but so like I said, I don't know if either of those games are direct sequels to this one at all. I don't know if this is like a real prerequisite for playing either of the other ones. But, I was very close to finishing this game at some point. I would like to see the story through to the end eventually. Who knows if I'll be completely burned out on it by the time Bravely 2 comes out. But I don't know. Maybe as long as I can just get through this, maybe I'll check out Bravely Second. Maybe I'll go straight to Bravely 2. I don't even know what to call that one. What a disaster. Ugh. But it's been really fun. It's just been a nice traditional sort of RPG experience, and it's been a long time since I played a DS game as well. So the fact that they have that second screen, like you're saying, it's great for RPGs and everything because you can have the map on it. You can have your character stats or their equipment while the battle is taking place up on the top screen. It's really good.
Nice. Yeah, I mean the 3DSs and DS is just a kind of perfect RPG machine.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder what's going to happen on the Switch. I mean, it's not like they were making RPGs before somebody put a second screen on the handheld, so I'm sure they'll deal. Yeah. But it's so nice just having this extra window for information happening while you're playing the game.
Excellent.
So anyway, maybe I will talk about Bravely 2 next week, because I think there's a demo out for that as well. But I also wanted to give an update on Final Fantasy VII Remake. Aside from the terrible cutscenes, I've played quite a bit more of it since last week. And I want to say, like, as soon as I got out of that area with the Avalanche Squad, it's your terrorist group that you start out with, that I was really having a difficult time with. I felt like it picked up quite a bit, because you end up in this other area. You meet Aerith, who is like a very important character. She's one of the main characters in the game. My memory of her from the original game is she's just kind of like, that's never really like understood the appeal. Like, not an especially interesting character. But this time around, it feels like she just has so much more personality, or like a lot of it comes through more because she's fully voice acted in these cutscenes. And also, because they've added all these kind of supplemental areas and additional story beats to the game, she just feels like much more of a realistic character in the game. So I forget if she's even in the demo. She's like the flower girl that you run into very briefly.
Oh, okay. They show her, and there's sort of an ominous tone to her presence, but you don't get any information at all on who she is or why she's there.
Yeah, she's just in the opening cutscene, I think. But you end up running into her at the end of one mission and having to like escort her back to her house because it's dangerous outside or whatever. But along the way, you go through this whole area, and all the townspeople will be like, "Oh, hey, it's Aerith. What's up? What are you going to, like, dropping by the orphanage after work or whatever?" Blah, blah, blah. And there's just all this extra sort of incidental story that you absorb just by having these new interactions. Which I was like, oh, that's good, because in the previous game, she just kind of felt like this weird character that existed for some reason. But in the remake, they've managed to flesh her out a little bit, which I think, when they managed to do something like this in the remake, It's very good. Like, I didn't really care about the Avalanche Squad guys. They're like secondary characters forever. But now that I'm actually spending time with one of the primary characters and getting a little more depth to them, I think it's good. That's sort of like what they should use the remake to do.
Good. So it's a bit of a kind of best case scenario for updating. Final Fantasy VII is getting to kind of resketch these characters a little bit, flesh them out a little more.
Yeah. I definitely have a very different impression of her after playing the remake than after replaying the original just a few months ago. So
excellent.
That was a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
Man, you're a busy guy. You've been playing a lot of games.
There's a lot of stuff going on. I realize it's irresponsible to be playing several JRPGs simultaneously.
Yeah.
But that's just how it ended up. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, Bravely Default's kind of the weird oddball in that list. I'm like, did you really start this game over? That's a bold move.
I mean, that's definitely the weirdest thing. You're right. But it's actually not bad. It's moving along at a very brisk pace. Just balancing it with Final Fantasy VII is tricky.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. I think we have.
Yeah, I gotta go. I got a lot of RPGs to play. I don't even know what I'm doing here.
You gotta do some dungeons and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, if you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And don't forget, you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this very show at VGHangover.com. We would encourage you to join our Discord. It's always a good time. Head over to VGHangover.com for a link to that as well. What are we talking about in our Discord these days?
We're talking about PlayStation 2 games. That's exciting.
Yes. We have a member of the community who has been just clearing out their bank account buying old video games and posting really kind of interesting updates on their haul. So, yeah, hop into that.
Man, speaking of PS2 games, this whole Dragalia Persona thing has got me thinking, like, I should get back to Persona 3. I should do that at the same time as I'm playing all these other RPGs. I think that's just too much, though. After.
Yeah, I mean, I would cross one of these other ones off your list before.
See, that would be the responsible thing to do.
100-hour game. All right, please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And please, please, please tell your friends about the show.
Yeah. You know what you can tell your friends this week? Is that we have a YouTube channel now. What? We've actually had a YouTube channel for many years. Just we've never really done anything with it. But we're very excited to now have... you can get our latest episodes on there, youtube.com/VGHangover. They'll be coming out on Friday, so a little later if you're just subscribed to it. But they'll be up there. We also have every episode from last year, 2020, if you want to get into the back catalog. And man, we have a lot of shows in the back catalog. We will be adding the entirety of the show all the way back to episode 0. Eventually. It's going to be kind of a gradual rollout. We just kind of wanted to get some of the more recent stuff on there. But we'd encourage you, like, I don't know, maybe you're not subscribed for some reason. Maybe you spend a lot of time on YouTube. Maybe that's your preferred way to take in podcasts or whatever. And now you can get the VG Hangover show on there.
Yeah.
So go and check that out.
Awesome.
Oh, and I finally get to say this. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get notified when new episodes come out.
Oh, we got to change our whole outro here now.
Yeah. I do have one request to anybody who actually does that, though. Since we now have just, like, not 100 videos, but we have, like, 50 new videos from last year. We have the last few months of the 2021 shows. If you could go in and actually just leave a like on some of those, I think it would help help those get a little more visibility. And we really appreciate it, of course.
Yeah, definitely. We'll always take all your likes.
So the plan is to just have, like I said, new episodes up every Friday. I think just to keep things less complicated, we will not be putting the radio shows on there. I know people are a fan of those. You'll still get those if you are subscribed here, of course. So please stay subscribed. But otherwise, every episode going up on the YouTube channel. Very excited about that.
Cool. You know what? I use the YouTube player on my smart TV a lot because there's all kinds of music on there, obviously, this TV, the little soundbar hooked up to my TV, sounds really good. It's kind of the best speaker in my house. So I've listened to a couple of podcasts on YouTube recently, and I feel like that'd be a really good way to consume the video game hangover one. Just cleaning up the house or hanging out on the couch or whatever, and just kind of have it on the YouTubes.
Oh, all right. Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
You've just been waiting for this moment.
Listen to my own voice.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you, DJ, for making all that happen. That's exciting.
Oh, yeah. Well, and thanks a lot for your help. It was more than just myself. But yeah, youtube.com/VGHangover. Please check it out. Also, thanks again to Felly Kitty this week for our intro and outro music. Please head on over to fellykitty.bandcamp.com. Listen to some more of our stuff.
Nice. Man, the internet is amazing.
There's so much stuff on there. You could spend a lot of time on there.
More than I really even thought.
Yeah.
Music on the internet, it's insane.
There's so much music on there. I don't know what's happening.
All right, we'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.